Welcome to day 3 of the free PowerPoint course. Today we're going to be talking about principles of design, and there are 12 of them. These principles of design, we will see how we incorporate those into creating more effective and engaging PowerPoint presentations. Enjoy.
Welcome to Principles of Design. When we start with a blank slide and place an element on the slide, how we deal with the positive and negative space is what's going to have a direct influence and impact on our design of the slide. Let's take a look at a familiar logo that we're used to seeing everywhere in our environment, FedEx, and notice how they use creatively negative space. We see this logo. Now, let's take a look at the next slide to see what they do with creatively using negative space. See how the red arrow automatically appears when we place the two letters together? What an excellent creative move here, because now they have the symbol of an arrow, which means go, which is what they are about, when it's got to be absolutely delivered the next day. Excellent creative idea. As with anything in life, there has to be balance. In design, we concentrate on two types of balance: symmetrical, which means everything's centered, or asymmetrical, where things are off to the side, for example. Let's take a look at some opportunities here for balance. This is a good example of a symmetrical slide where all the elements are centered within the middle of the slide. Now we take those same elements and we create a slide that is asymmetrical. In a presentation, you don't want every slide to be either symmetrical or asymmetrical. For a good presentation, you need to have a balance. You need to have a mix. We always have the question, where do we place the elements on a slide for maximum impact? Does everything need to be centered horizontally and vertically? Well, we need to have a visual center. So what we do is we find the center of the slide horizontally, and we place our elements slightly above. That will have more attraction for our eyes and increase the level of interest. Every slide needs to have a unified look. All the elements that are on the slide need to look like they go together to create the overall effect that you want to design in a slide. Anyone who looks at this slide can tell that the individual elements on this slide do not go together to create a unified looking designed slide. As a matter of fact, this combination is a detractor and actually interferes with the message delivery. In this slide, we've taken the same information, restructured it, redesigned it, made it more cohesive and unified, and created this slide as the final designed product. Quite a difference, don't you think? No one wants to look at static slides, so we as designers and creatives, we need to create slides that create motion, make our eyes move, be an exciting slide. Motion is essential for interest. No one wants to look at a 20-minute presentation where all the slides are the same. We don't want to see slide after slide of bulleted text. We don't want to see slide after slide of images that are all symmetrical or asymmetrical. We want to have the rhythm and the flow upset. That is what's going to maintain audience interest. For years as PowerPoint designers, we only had to worry and concern ourselves with designing slides that took into effect the X and Y axis, how high we place it or how left or right we place it. Now, we get to deal with proportion. We get to deal with the Z, how things are larger and smaller. Proportion creates interest, and it's an aspect of creative design. This money bag is the same image. What I did was I duplicated it 3 times, changed the size of 3 extra ones, made it look further back in the Z to create interest and variety. Easy technique. As with anything, there is a hierarchy to the order of importance. Same thing with the elements on the slide. You will have things that are the first importance, of second importance, and of third importance, as reflected in our political scheme today. Here we have the President, the Vice President, and the Speaker of the House. Our political hierarchy. Dominance. What is the biggest thing that jumps out at us off the slide? In other words, what is that 800-pound gorilla in the room that's going to attract our attention? Everything else may be secondary, but there is a dominating element on every slide. As we look at every slide, we'll decide what our focal point is. That will be what draws our eyes and creates our attention. We have to make sure that we assign that focal priority. Where do we look first? Do we look at the picture? Do we look at the important colors that attract our attention? Do we look at the information that the graph provides? Or do we look at the title of the slide? What is the focal priority? Where are we going to look? Our eyes are attracted to things that are different. Color, size, contrast is what creates interest for us and automatically draws our eyes to that information. This is why contrast is essential. We have some information and we have a theme. And what we have to make sure is that the theme does not override the information. Now, on the next slide, you'll see where we've actually blurred out the theme so that it's not the overriding important feature of the slide. That way, we can concentrate on the message. Repetition of elements and consistency of those elements over various slides is also an extremely important design technique, something that we need to be working with to make sure that our message is given to the audience. Proximity, how close the elements are placed together on the slide, will create grouping, or if they're spread out, will make it so that they seem like they're dissimilar. Proximity goes back to our old table setting. Are the plates and the cups, and knives and forks all grouped together, or are they apart? Proximity creates groups. Alignment of the elements on the slide is essential for design. We don't want to make it look like things are just placed randomly or willy-nilly on the slide. They all have to be placed for a particular reason and purpose. That reason being the delivery of the message and making sure that our audience knows where to look and what's important. If you want to take a trick from print medium, make grids. Put lines and make spaces to where you want your information to appear. You make a grid, you have it all set up, you plug in the information, and you're set with your design. My final design tip when dealing with pictures, don't be like the amateur photographer who stands there and centers their subject. Be like the professional photographer and pick a PowerPoint to put the center of focus of your image. That way, you have additional space to put text information. An excellent design technique taken from the world of photography.
Today we've talked about 12 different aspects of principles of design and how we incorporate those into PowerPoints. Tomorrow, join us as we talk about some of the different elements of design. The first one being how we incorporate images into our PowerPoints. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow.